Oh, we are so back.
Ethan and Benjamin Castle are Americans. Watching the footy.
Liam Ryan saying, kick it my way, I want to jump over the pack, and here he comes! Ryan!
This is Buddy Franklin! This is the greatest showman!
Got the handball off to Myers. Myers looking for the lead of Stengel. Gee, they're good. Gee, they're sharp. Razzle dazzle Rioli.
Oh, who else? McDonald!
From inside the centre square. Boys kick the goal. Boys kick the goal. From inside the centre. Fat. I can't believe
This is the 150th episode of Americans Watching the Footy, and it is our opening round preview. Unfortunately, no SpongeBob clip there because opening round does not sound nearly as good as Gather Round. Yeah, so I texted my friend who works for Nickelodeon asking if he could somehow get Tom Kenny to do that clip, and the conversation went like this. I said, do you ever get to talk with Mr. Kenny? Every day. What if you could get him to record a 2-word clip for a podcast about Australian football? Probably not happening. We used the Gather Round clip from the Campfire song. We were hoping to get one for opening round. Yeah, if it was something like your friend has cancer and needed a SpongeBob voicemail to cheer him up, I could do that, but I can't grab clips for a podcast. Okay, my podcast has cancer. And title. That was a very easy title for us to get. I think it's going to be hard to top that. Better be a good thumbnail. Oh, gee, would it just, show our logo, somehow, bald from chemo? Or, I don't know, our logo with a tumor? Or maybe, strapped into an IV for chemo? I don't know. You go, really dark with this one. Okay, I went literally dark with the last one because we had a power outage during it. Yeah, if you haven't listened to our prior episode, yeah, our power actually went out during...
Oh no! Oh no!
Stayed out for, I don't know, do we know how long it was? It wasn't that long, maybe 15 minutes in real life. But it's funny, we were talking about the power and the power went out. When we were talking about the Lions, when it was their venue that had the outage, it came back on. It's completely counterintuitive. By the way, I'm Benjamin Castle here with my brother Ethan in South San Francisco, California. His cat, Brian Harambe, is probably hiding underneath the bed because he gets scared by absolutely everything. He is the scaredy cat. Before we actually get into the 4-game previews, we do have a good batch of
News, everyone!
to get through. Starting with, wait, the tribunal is not still deliberating. Yes, Jimmy Webster has been sentenced to death, and not by Snoo Snoo. In actuality, 7 games, which is the longest suspension under careless conduct. It's the first of that kind to get more than 4 games even, and the longest overall since 2018, which was for Andrew Gaff breaking Andrew Brayshaw's jaw with a punch during the second Western Derby. And there are clearly some truthers about that think that Brayshaw was complicit somehow. Yeah, I saw that. I'd love to know more. Yeah. But the most interesting thing out of that whole suspension to me was the fact that apparently his 16-month-old kid can read. Did he say his son was being vilified and bullied by the comments and stuff? Yeah. Did he not talk to his sister about that? Not to imply that his sister had his son, roll tide, but no, I think it was his sister who posted that comment, right? Yeah, and I think his brother had said something too. Yeah, so not a good look for families of Australian League sports people this week on social media because there was the NRL racial vilification case too, where Leniu's brother posted basically the same thing. Yeah, Jay Webster, younger brother, yeah. Fair bump, play on. Not a good look anywhere. And it's pretty cool, though, that his 16-month-old is reading and on social media and probably also saying things like Ruth Conda forever. I knew where that was going. I was about to say it myself. I think the most interesting thing about this is when Webster is eligible to return against North, round 8. Somebody make the sacrifice. Jai Simkin, by the way, has been ruled out of round 1 because of his concussion. Now, the AFL is keeping their 12-day protocol in place, but for all other levels below the top level, it's now 21 days. So what increased medical practices are available at the top level other than Mark Fisher clearing you when you are nowhere near close to play? We've both been of the belief that there need to be like neutral doctors, kind of like NFL has it now, right? Yeah, that's exactly what I was going for. We don't want another Mark Fisher situation. I love that the Saints and North are playing in round 8 because that was the round where they played in the worst game of last year. I mean, worst? Depends. It really depends on your... Okay, ugliest? I mean, it was definitely a game of last year. Teams combined for 12 goals and 26 behinds. North kicked 7 behinds in the first half. What's amazing is in each of the first 2 years that we have done this podcast, there has been a team going goalless in the first half. Port did it against Melbourne in 2022. I mean, I feel like it's something that can happen every year. I don't think it's like that crazy. Look, the West Coast Eagles exist. Their issue usually hasn't been scoring as much as it's been giving up, like 150. But if Kelly misses any games, they'll just be too overwhelmed in the midfield. Yeah, anyway, I now care about North against the Saints for like non-sickos reasons. No? No? In some umpiring news, the AFL has made a little bit of concession to Ray Chamberlain. Razor's allowed to throw the ball up in the center square and like never have to bounce it because of his back issues. So does that mean I guess he'll never take the opening? I don't know. I'm just confused. Like he's able to run the entire game, but he can't bend down for a moment to bounce. Yeah, I'm like, I don't know. That's confusing. It is. I mean, I'm not exactly sure what the diagnosis is, but I would just think that having to run a lot would probably be a challenge. I mean, I don't think running puts as much strain on the spine as the bending down for the bounce. But who are we? We're not doctors. I don't know. I mean, I don't like running. And finally, it's the Tasmanian Devils. Warner Brothers clearly doesn't give a fuck. Yay. And I hope they're going to be wearing green. We need a green team. I think it's pretty obvious. They're considering that's, all their state stuff has been green with like some yellow and maroon accents. I believe they're on track for a 2028 entry, regardless of whether or not the stadium goes through. And I know they've got their election coming up soon. We will, of course, be following all of 6 News' updates about that. Is it time for the games? I guess so. Time for the games. Holy crap, Lois. We got Footy again. And we begin at the SCG, and that just seems so off to me. Like I've said, I've been not a huge fan of the opening round concept. Like, it's frustrating that this comes only after we finally get, Carlton Richmond with some juice behind it. Carlton's good now. I get why they're doing it, but I'm also not a fan of, Collingwood opening the season on the road after winning the flag. I think if you win the flag, you need to open at home. And I can go back on that to last year and say that Geelong should have had a real home game round 1. Even if it was going to be at the G, needed to be against not Collingwood, needed to be a home game type feel. Another finals rematch. What I would say was a prelim rematch. Grand final rematch, build up the hype for it for a few rounds in the season. Prelim rematch seems fine. We got 2 finals rematches from last year in this one and 1 finals rematch from 2022. And that 2022 rematch, with a pretty different feel about it now, is where we begin with the Swans and D's, 7:30 p.m. local time on Thursday the 7th. Holy cow. For American audiences, it'll be on Fox Sports 2, 3:30 a.m. Eastern, 12:30 a.m. Pacific. This was a double up last year, with the Demons winning both meetings in pretty different circumstances. Yeah, first time around, Melbourne beat them by 50. I remember that was a midday Sunday game. And Cats were playing like shit at Gold Coast that day, so I was kind of preoccupied. That was Jacob Van Rooyen's debut, and he scored 3 goals, became the first Demon to do that on debut in 31 years. And then round 24, Melbourne won by 21, which what was at stake? Was it just locking them into... That game wasn't really a dead run, was it? No, it locked them into the top 4. I think the Swans might have been safe in finals by then, but yeah, they definitely were. Yeah, because the only game after that was Carlton GWS. Right, yeah. Bailey Fritsch scored 5 straight on return from a broken foot and had 3 of the 4 goals in the fourth quarter. Fritsch has been quite inaccurate in the run-up to the season. We'll see if that was just him shaking off rust or if it's something more concerning. Also of note was that we had an unused sub in that round 24 game, Aaron Francis. I want to track sub use this year. I've discussed this before. Well, yeah, there's the tactical, the medical, the victory cigar, and the fuck you, or the you suck, rather. Yeah, I mean, the you suck and tactical kind of merge sometimes. No, there's a difference. Tactical is like, we need another defender and we're taking out a forward. I guess we'll have to cross that bridge when we get there. Both Sydney and Melbourne have been hit reasonably hard by injuries in the run-up to the season. The Swans will be without some key midfield pieces, Taylor Adams, Luke Parker, and Callum Mills, all with potentially month or longer stints on the sidelines still. Mills, obviously, through the mid-season. So right away, a more important job for James Jordan, who will be making his club debut against his former side. 65 games, the unused sub, I believe, in their premiership win in 2021. And then, obviously, Brody Grundy, after his 1-year stint with the Demons, will be lining up as the first-rate ruck against his short-term partner in crime, Max Gawn. That's going to be weird. Well, Grundy's whole run at Melbourne was weird. All one season of it. Yeah, it was just, the whole thing was off. Well, I think they believed a lot more in him and Gawn both flexing into the forward line, where Gawn has always been steadier as a defensive mark, kind of an extra loose defender if he isn't taking the immediate ruck assignment or if there's enough time after. And Grundy has definitely lost some of his forward craft. There was potential for Pete Laddams to slot into the forward line, but he's just listed as an emergency. I know that Laddams is one of your least favorite players in the AFL, so I had to mention that. Yeah, I mean, I don't think most people particularly care for him. Kind of, pretty dirty player. If you're new here, I just think of him as a guy who punched another guy in the dick. And it's not like, like a Braden Maynard or Brad Marchand situation where he makes up for it off the oval. I mean, I don't know if he's a bad guy, but not like he doesn't have the really fun, redeeming personality. As far as we've seen, that, yeah. On Melbourne's side, Kazi Pickett's going to miss this game. He was suspended for a bump on Patrick Cripps during last year's semifinal. Harrison Petty's going to be out a couple weeks with a toe injury. Lockie Hunter's out with a calf injury. Yeah, still a few weeks away for him, which means that as I was going for in our home and away preview, it's largely a new look for the Demons on the outside. 3 debuts there for the club, 2 AFL debuts that could really fill those spots on the outside. Jack Billings making his Melbourne debut after 155 games with the Saints. He was, I believe, a number 3 pick for them. You said that one's going to look weird to you for a while. Yes. Even with his minimal playing time in 2023. I think 3 AFL games in 2023. Just was always on the fringe these past few years. Saints hadn't emphasized him on the wing as much, maybe because he had guys like Brad Hill taking some of that heat. On the opposite wing, you'll find Blake Howes, pick 39 from 2021, really impressed in the preseason. You'll see him in number 22. And then pick 7, Caleb Windsor, who put everybody on notice if he hadn't been on people's radars already with his showings in the preseason. Windsor looked very mature, was able to work around some veteran defenders in order to craft some goals in the Community Series fixture against Carlton. Was really impressed by him. Also of note for the Demons, a couple things about each of our sleepers, actually. My sleeper for the year, Tom Sparrow, who I picked before the preseason outings, was extended for 2 more years through 2026. Underrated part of their premiership team in 2021. And what about your sleeper, Ethan? Mine is Taj Woiwoden, and he is listed as an emergency. Now, they do name 5 on the interchange now, so he would legitimately only be in if someone were taken out for some injury-related reason. It seems like Bailey Laurie would be a reasonable sub pick for the Demons. And then for the Swans, maybe Matt Roberts. There was talk about him going back as an extra defender if they needed. And whenever you hear extra in the conversation, that kind of screams sub to you. Just check the lines for this one. What do you think about these? I mean, hard to tell with all the injuries and so many players untried in home and away situations. The line has the Swans as a 1.5 favorite. I'd say, I don't know, I guess Sydney at home by 12, 13 points, something like that. Something like, I don't know, a 73-61 type of score. Man, that seems reasonably low. I wonder, though, kind of what are the plans for Errol Golden? With Parker out, there's definitely a bit more of a need for some coverage on the inside. And I was, with Golden having spent some more wing time in the preseason, I'm just kind of left unsure about that. I think a lot of it's going to depend on how strong those newer outside pieces for the Demons can actually be. And with Clayton Oliver in, despite everything he's gone through, I mean, how game ready is he? Because he wasn't even in the AFL preseason outing a week ago. So a lot of questions there. I think I'd take the Swans narrowly just from the home factor, but I'm far from convinced. Oh, I was wondering, does Kazi's suspension, because it carries over from last year, that doesn't affect like his ability to tally and Brownlow stuff, right? That's correct. Suspensions from the previous season that carry over don't affect anything with the Brownlow. It's only if you're suspended in that same home and away season. So theoretically, Jimmy Webster's also still eligible. That I don't know. That's actually a good question. Does the calendar kind of count the community series there? I don't know. That's a question for David Zeta. If we ask the tribunal about it, they would obviously still be deliberating. Friday night, it's going to be Brisbane hosting Carlton at the Gabba, and it's 6:40 local time, because I guess Queensland doesn't do daylight saving time. Queensland doesn't, and Western Australia doesn't. And I don't think the Northern Territory does either. So yes, Queensland is 30 minutes behind South Australia this time of year. Makes sense. Oh, of course. But it'll be 6:40 at the Gabba, 7:40 in Victoria, 3:40 a.m. on the East Coast of the United States, and 12:40 a.m. right here on the West Coast. It's going to be Fox Soccer Plus, so get watch AFL. Not sponsored, just legitimately great deal. Would love if they were a sponsor. We're listening. I hope you are. Lions and Blues met twice last year. I remember the round 8 one pretty vividly. I think that was Friday night, but it was a standalone game. Jack Payne was brilliant against Charlie Curnow, 1v1, in a 26-point Lions win. A bunch of Blues fans left early after they got dominated in the third quarter. Charlie Cameron and Zach Bailey both had 4 goals, and this was really before the Blues had figured out their lineup. Matt Kennedy was a sub and played in defense, and there were still so many questions about them, so many calls for Michael Voss's head. The tide changed relatively quickly after that, unfortunately. And then obviously there was the prelim, in which the Lions won by 16 and completed the first ever perfect Gabba home campaign, which they celebrated with an extremely long siren. That was the main character of that round for us. Well, yeah, it was like a minute long. It went through the entire first verse. Was it broken, or were they just that excited about it? I don't know. Really long release there, Giggity. The trio of Lockie Neal, Josh Dunkley, and Jared Berry all had very good games, and Neal really won that battle against Nutwolf, being Adam Chera.
What's a battle?
Jack Payne missed that game and was replaced by Darcy Gardner, who himself held Charlie Curnow in check 1v1. The biggest surprise of that matchup, probably. And here's the weird one. Darcy Gardner has been playing forward over the summer. Why? This is a team that has more than enough good forwards. Are they trying to, they're not trying to de-emphasize Eric Hipwood's goal kicking, are they? I hope not, because Runaway's his goal song. Oh yeah, the Lions have their list of goal songs this year. Eric Hipwood going with Runaway, as in, epic sax guy, that's one of the best. Bruce Revel, Wagon Wheel, that's a winner as well. If he ever gets in, yeah. And Connor McKenna going with the Irish pick of Zombie. McKenna won't be playing this game, still a week out with his hamstring injury. I guess maybe the thing with Gardner is that with Tom Duday coming in, once he's recovered from his ACL, he'll have less of a spot in the back, and then maybe it would allow some more flexibility for Joe Danaher just to be more of a follower, have more time in the ruck, alleviating Oscar McInerney a bit. It doesn't seem normal to me. As long as this means that Jack Payne is in as a steady 1v1 as a fullback, then I don't really mind it. It's a little strange, though. Hoping that we can see my sleeper pick come in as utility, that being Kai Lohman. He and Jimmy Tunstall need to really take advantage of these first few weeks, especially as Will Ashcroft is still on the mend from his own ACL injury. And so it looks like with McKenna out, one of James Madden or Jackson Fryer will get in at halfback. And then the other interesting Lions piece of news this week is that Trent Cotchin has now joined the club as an off-field mentor. It is so weird to see him in maroon. But what you see a lot of players do this is they, leave the club that they're at for a long time to get their first coaching job, get their foot in the door, and it's worked out for some of them. Think about Adam Uze, for example, who, we'll talk about his team in a bit, but after he played, his first assistant coaching job was at Hawthorn before he came back to the D's. So, exposing yourself, not in that way, but, to more ideas, maybe different sorts of coaching philosophies. And, with the struggle that the Lions have had to finish the job and win a premiership, nice to have a three-time premiership captain in the fold. On Carlton's side, from an injury standpoint, Jesse Motlop's going to miss a week or two with a toe injury. Jack Martin's got a knee injury that's going to keep him out 2 to 3 weeks. Elijah Hollins is out for 2 games for being in love with the Coco. That's what also reduced his contract offer from 3 years to 1, though I imagine the Blues will re-up. Also, no timetable on Jacob Wiedering's calf injury, Caleb Marchbank's illness, and perhaps the most important, Sam Walsh's back injury. So this team's going to be pretty short-handed coming into the year. Yeah, and they're all going to miss round 1 as well. Their next updates are going to come, all 3 of them, after the round 2 bye. I would say Wiedering's out would actually be the more important one. You could still see a sort of midfield structure there without Sam Walsh, especially once Hollins is able to get back into the picture because of how strong he is on ball immediately off the contest there, and with his brother Ollie getting some more time in the center of the ground too. But without Wiedering there, so much responsibility there on Brody Kemp, who is my sleeper, and Lewis Young, who neither of us have really believed in that strongly over these past couple years. I think there are more questions there. With Motlop and Martin out, though, there are some clear openings there at forward, especially in the smaller areas. If Matt Owies and Corey Durden aren't picked, they're still recovering from calf and hamstring injuries, respectively, but they're listed as available, it seems. But if they're passed over, then maybe we're going to see a first-round pick debut for the Blues, that being pick 27, Ashton Moyer, who was a name that I think we talked about in our Geelong column discussions as a positive influence there. The other question in terms of kind of their offensive approaches is Harry Mackay going to be steady as a forward, or is he also going to be their second ruck? Because that'll be the factor to whether or not they include Mark Pittonet. Amazing how quickly Tom DeKoning asserted himself over Pittonet. He was one of their biggest successes last year. For the prior year, I hadn't really thought that much of him, and then he really stepped up as a ruckman with some full field abilities elsewhere. Mainly doing stuff defensively, but can sneak forward as well. Whereas his brother is pretty much just a stay-at-home defender. They tried him in the ruck on occasion, though, right? Yeah, occasionally take some defensive 50 hitouts and stuff. And yay, Sam isn't Bane anymore. He hasn't been for a while. The Lions are favored by 22.5. Odds makers like them to win their 6th straight against Carlton and deny club great Michael Voss his first coaching win against the Lions. They're the only team he hasn't beaten as an AFL head coach. With the defensive concerns for the Blues, I'm pretty quick to tip the Lions here as well. Yeah, now that I look at it more, I get why it's 22.5. I still think that's a bit high, but considering what Carlton's missing out, I'd probably put it more maybe 16.5. Well, 16 was that prelim margin, wasn't it? 79 to 63. And I believe that was a bad beat because of a late goal from, I think, Jack Martin. Too bad Scott Van Pelt didn't get all of that. We need to get SVP onto some Australian rules football. Yes, we do.
Benjamin, 78% of our listeners are between 18 and 35 years old, so they probably want to start a podcast like we did.
How did you know that number, Ethan?
Thanks to the analytics we have for Spotify for Podcasters. Formerly known as Anchor, sorry Frio fans, Spotify for Podcasters has tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast from your phone or your computer. No fancy software needed. It's so easy you can edit it while drunk. And Spotify for Podcasters doesn't just allow you to upload to Spotify, you can also distribute your podcast on platforms like Apple, Stitcher, and more, just like we do. Best of all, it's completely free. Not only is it free, You can even make money from listener support or ad revenue. Hint, hint. Download the Spotify for Podcasters app or go to podcasters.spotify.com to get started today.
And welcome back to Americans Watching the Footy. I'm Ethan Castle.
I am Benjamin Castle.
Don't forget, we are on Twitter at Americans Footy. Personally, I'm at Castle Media.
I'm at Benjamin HK01.
We're also on Instagram at Americans Footy.
YouTube as well. We'll get some more shorts up as well as some interesting things happen during the season.
And Brian Harambe, who I just let out of the room, is on Instagram at Cat Named Brian.
Did he ask?
Yeah, he did.
Good.
Other odds and ends to tie up while we're at it. I don't know if I mentioned, but Brisbane has won 8 straight home meetings with Carlton, including last year's final. Felt like that was kind of relevant to this. Let's see, other noteworthy streak-related stuff. Melbourne's won their last 2 trips to the SCG.
2.
Yeah, it's hard to call too much of a streak.
3's a streak. 2 is only relevant if it's in consecutive seasons.
And Riley Thilthorpe could be out up to 3.5 months. I believe he had surgery on his, meniscus, right?
Yeah, it was a pretty severely torn meniscus. Thilthorpe has been one of our favorites since his Anzac 2021 debut.
Honestly, if it's only 3.5 months for something like that, that would be pretty good.
Yeah, and thankfully the Crows have some decent tall stock, but
it sucks more from the we like him and we think he's good than it does from this will severely hurt the team standpoint.
It's his 4th year. We're waiting for him to finally assert himself as a best 18 player, and unfortunately that'll have to wait until around mid-season now. So 2 games on Saturday, no Sunday this round, which feels a little weird, but we've got the, do we call this the Dimma Bowl?
I mean, they should be playing it at the Dimmadome then.
Get arena owner Douglas D on it.
Thinking about it though, you mentioned, not having a Sunday game. On one hand, it would be nice. On the other, I have plans Saturday night. So, I also have stuff going on Friday night, state basketball championship. So these 2 Saturday games, I will not be seeing live. Maybe I'll be caught up at some point during the second one.
It's a bit of a tall ask depending on how late those games go and how much you got to write.
Yeah, that's true.
It's 6 games both days.
Yeah, but I'm not writing every game.
Writing about enough of them, though.
Yeah, I'll have a lot going on, though. But after this weekend, it's pretty much all footy. Get to set my entire schedule around it.
Yeah, but the Dimma Bowl, Gold Coast and Richmond at Heritage Bank Stadium. A 3:20 p.m. local bounce mid-afternoon on Saturday on the Gold Coast. 4:20 p.m. for Victorian audiences. 12:20 a.m. Eastern on early Saturday morning in the United States. 9:20 p.m. for us on the West Coast, still Friday the 8th. This is a Fox Soccer Plus broadcast, so, again, get Watch AFL. Not sponsored. New coaches on both sides. Obviously, we know all about what Damien Hardwick has done with his time at Richmond. I guess the burnout didn't last too long for him, or maybe that trip to Colorado just really helped him get over it. I find it so funny just thinking back to that, just like, at a bar in Colorado, watching Australian rules football, a bunch of them probably didn't know that he was the Richmond head coach just like a week or 2 prior. And then Adam Uze, we'd been waiting for him to get a head coaching job. He finally has the opportunity after having been a 4-time Premiership assistant at Hawthorn, 3 flags, half fun. At Melbourne, 1 flag, no fun.
A 3rd fun. Nah. A 6th fun?
You remember the 6 Flags commercial.
I do. It took me a minute.
Yeah. More flags, more fun. Australians, I doubt you've ever seen those except maybe on YouTube. I don't think that's a commercial that would really travel, though.
No, it's definitely an American thing.
6 Flags is an American thing, a Texan thing to start with.
Yeah.
I still find it hilarious that Hardwick took a job for a team that rarely ever plays at the G. In fact, their only trip to the G will be their rematch with Richmond round 24.
Oh, yeah, weird thing. That is the only one of these 4 games that has a rematch,
which just doesn't feel right with finals matchups and stuff.
And just generally speaking, if you play a team in round 1, you should probably play them again. At least that's how I feel about it.
Yeah, try to
balance things out a minute. I feel like your first two and last two games should be rematches. It doesn't have to be like all of your first 4 or 5 or whatever, but at least the first 1 or 2 and the last 1 or 2. I get that. These teams played once last year. In fact, this is the first year ever that they're doubling up. Wow. Yeah, that is surprising because, well, in 2022, you had Noah Anderson winning it after the siren. You had Carmichael Hunt winning it after the siren back in, I think, what was that, 2012 maybe? I love that Anderson won it after the siren. Growing up a Richmond fan, which is weird because his father was a 2-time premiership player for Hawthorn, just didn't play enough for father-son eligibility. And then a couple weeks ago, the Suns had Damian Hardwick like blind react to the clip. It just immediate reaction was, oh, fuck you. I mean, Richmond blew, 40-point lead, and it was still 28 at 3/4 time. They just pissed it away. It was fun. Just after the siren was fun. Were you awake? Yes. I don't know if you were. I think I had just woken up for it. I think I like slept through a lot of that game and was just awake to see like the final couple goals, including the winner. Round 7 last year was a great game from Anderson, and another time where Hardwick probably just thought, man, I hate coming here. Just an ugly game to watch. Richmond taking 6-12 in a 24-point loss. For all of the heartbreaking losses Richmond's had in the last couple of years, I think that game was like the most just flaccid. Jamie. The Suns kicked 6 goals in the third quarter to get the distance they required. And one of the guys that I had really championed over the offseason, Charlie Ballard, played one of his best games. By the way, the Suns do go to Marvel 4 times this year. Well, of course, but not until round 11. They could have gone there more, but their game against the Bulldogs is at Ballarat, although it feels like the Bulldogs usually play the Suns at Ballarat when it's their home game. So that's, how early is that one? That's an early one. Yeah, round 2. Yeah, I think that's the earliest the Dogs have ever gone out to Ballarat. You don't usually see alternate site games until like after like Anzac Day about. I don't know, but I support it. Yeah, because like Hawthorn, for example, gets the Anzac fixture in Launceston usually. Not this year though, I think. I think they have the Swans at home for Anzac Day, I think. Speaking of the defense for the Suns though, thinking about Ballard, what's it gonna look like around him? No Alex Davies there, still working his way back from a hamstring injury, so we'll have to wait on his grandfather to make his triumphant return. Hopefully Hardwick is as friendly to him as Stuart Dew was. Alex Davies' grandfather, underrated fan. Yes, one of the few highlights of the Stuart Dew Suns, along with that Noah Anderson after the siren win. The big name there to watch for the Suns in terms of an inclusion is Connor Butterick, who was my sleeper pick. Seems to have won a selection battle over fellow Suns Academy graduate Bodie Hewlin in defense. Butterick has been sidelined by a couple severe knee injuries over the past couple years, and looks like he's gotten that flank spot. Are they ever going to play Caleb Graham?
No.
Seriously, I find that very unfortunate. I just think it's not smart. Again, maybe they would think that the back line would be too slow with him in there, but in that case, maybe move Sam Collins to more of a center half back role, try to get him on someone smaller. Ooh, Sam Collins has a cool beard in his photo this year. It looks way better than the mustache he had in the last couple. Yeah, really completes things there. And, maybe there are some more openings there in defense, maybe for Graham to slot in if Mac Andrew continues to play forward. What? I kind of love that. He's so, thin and lanky, though. It feels weird to, I was like, he'd get pushed around less up front, or maybe he'd get pushed around more and earn more noticeable frees. Yeah, I feel like just either way, it would be great if he bulked up some, but I think it does probably fit him better. Just his body type. All depends on the finishing ability, of course. And he wasn't super sound or confident in his kicking abilities when we watched him last year. Also, it would take away from him being able to do the sort of stuff that got me interested in the first place, like chase down tackles, which just anything he does looks cool, but you expect someone like him to be able to utilize his height, not chase people down. So I just want him to chase more people down. It's fun to see someone who's built like Waluigi play footy. Frankly, taller and maybe a little skinnier, definitely taller. You know what? Minus the more tall Luigi. Now, I didn't call this the Dimma Lynch Bowl because, well, no Tom Lynch as he still recovers from the foot injury that kept him out much of last year. Another big tall out for the Tigers. No captain for him. I forgot Tobin and Curvis is their captain now, which is just kind of funny considering he can be pretty reckless. Well, he is their sole captain now because Dylan Grimes stepped down. Yeah, and he's not like, Braden Bruce levels, but he's had his share of dumb, not very captainly things, kind of like James Sicily or Toby Green before getting the captaincy. Maybe it's just that, actually, yeah, I think Sicily makes sense because even while still as captain, Nate Curtis has been reckless. Yeah. Like, didn't he have to front the tribunal last year? Yeah. Yeah, I think that was that from a Sydney encounter? I forget. It was something there, I think. I think it was maybe something with Jake Lloyd. But Nate Curtis is out, opens the door for one of my favorite youngsters, Samson Ryan, a Queensland native from Toowoomba, I believe. And then also not Dr. Sam Naismith. Is that going to be what we call him?
Nah, we'll come up with something else.
Yeah, it is Naismith, though. In 9 years on the Swans list, he managed a grand total of 30 games, just one of the unluckiest guys in the league in terms of injuries, but pretty obvious that he'll be in there right away. I mean, there's really no other clean option there for a true ruck. I mean, I don't think you're going to put Ryan there full game against Jared Witz. Yeah, it sucks that the NSC stuff isn't really available for this round, which basically takes down the value of any player on one of these 8 teams because they get one fewer game. But I could see this being like a 50 hit out game for Jared Witz. I mean, he could have that even if Dan Curvis was in there, just the odds are now higher. Other things for Richmond, Jack Graham is going to be out 4 weeks with a quad. And then we'll see about Dusty. He's considered a test with a corked calf. Looks like it's good news, though, on Dion Prestia and Nick Flostone. But with Graham out, probably means Thompson Dow would get the opportunity to start. And then where does the small forward situation lie? Because Morris Rioli Jr. wasn't really able to hold that down. Liam Baker, who I guess will be the acting captain for this because he's now vice captain, is a small utility who really isn't a steady forward. I mean, I guess the options there are youngsters. Yeah, perhaps 2022 rookie pick Seth Campbell or Steely Green. Steely Green, say it again. Steely Green. Steely fucking Green. Steely Green. Steely Green. Steely Green. If he actually gets this opportunity, firstly, we just have, the cult hero that we'd expect. 2, it would mean we get number 48 in a club's first game. Love for number 48. Green and Adelaide's Mark Keane, I believe, are the only 2. Well, that'd be tougher to get. Well, is Jai Coley going to be healthy this year? He's 49. I know, but I was going to say, is it going to be tougher to get a 49 in? Because, it's really just like him and Ned Moyle. Well, Coley will be healthy enough by mid-season to come back in. Okay, because there aren't a lot of 49. There are a couple others. I guess the only other one that would be viable would be if Caleb Smith found a game for Richmond, but I don't think that's likely. And then the other is Jaden Hunter for Essendon, who had an ACL injury and is ruled out for the entire year. So I think 49 would be in the most jeopardy, but Cully will get time. All right, as long as we get a 48 and a 49 in there. None of the other numbers really seem to be a concern. Yeah, 47 you would think, but then you remember Anthony Caminiti and Jai Menzie. Yeah, so 47 is in good shape. And 50, there's always one or two big guys. Marlon Erica, and for Richmond, Marlon Pickett. And at some point for Melbourne, especially now that he's healthy, you'd expect the woke Ben Brown to be there, especially if Josh Shackey doesn't work out as a backup ruck option. Or Tom Fullerton, who's a former basketballer. He is a former basketballer, yes. Suns are listed as 12.5-point favorites. This is such a hard one to judge with the new coaching and just everything else about it. Still with the question about Dusty's availability. I guess I would trust the Rowell and Anderson tandem in the middle at this point, with Dusty's concern and also Prestia coming back from a hamstring. I think this game has the highest variance. I think that's fair. And either team could win this by 50, and I'd say, sure. I think you need Nick Flostone to be a real back 50 general for Richmond, not just in this game, but to generally have success this year. He's shown that leadership ability, and I'd put him in that spot over Dylan Grimes, who I still see as played a bit further back. I don't think it just has to be one of those two. Jaden Short can do some of that. Yeah, Liam Baker, although I know you've talked about him being played elsewhere. Yeah, in terms of consistently engineering play from the back and being that loose interceptor, that's where I see Floston being able to drift off his opponent easily. Baker's strong, I think, in defense on the ground anyway.
We haven't talked at all about like the effect a healthy Josh Gibcus is going to provide. Is he going to be ready to go?
Yeah, he was in for the community series, and that'll definitely provide some relief for Grimes as well. Was really satisfied with what Gibcus did in 2022, and then his hamstring basically said, fuck you, and he had to recover in Qatar, which is what Heath Chapman for Frio's doing now as well. I guess they really know their hamstrings there in Qatar.
Maybe there's just like one doctor there that's really good, kind of like, like James Andrews with elbows.
Or what's the other one?
Neil Elatrash?
Neil Elatrash, yeah. Elatrache? I don't know. But yeah, there's like one or two guys for like very specific things. And I guess it's easier to get to Qatar than the US. Less of a time change,
I guess.
Yeah. Well, there's that. Yes, Gibcus being back should help their structure a lot. And it also makes more sense with him back to allow Noah Balta to continue to play forward where he's been all summer. That was probably a consideration there in moving Balta forward. Saturday night footy at the showground. Please be a good crowd. I don't care if it's like 80% Collingwood. Sell it the fuck out.
I just want people to be there. This GWS team was so fun last year. I want people to show up to watch them.
I mean, they did get on a very good rate for selling their membership, so the odds are good for them to get a good crowd. I don't want to be skeptical about it. I just want it to fucking happen. GWS and Collingwood, the 1-point prelim rematch. You had over 97,500 there at the G for that prelim, including the Los Angeles Kings in full Collingwood gear. And I think we established that Drew Doughty is the king that looks the most like a footy player.
Yeah, I guess so.
Huge game for Jordan Ngoe, even though he wasn't able to get on for the final couple minutes. Steel side bottom was a leader, really the entire finals. We've always appreciated him. I hope that even the Collingwood haters were able to just respect how much of an impact he had. And also the fact that Mason Cox was the one to give Collingwood the lead for good in a very low-scoring fourth quarter made this very satisfying from an American perspective. And then Cox also got 10 coaches' votes in their round 9 meeting, which was,
oh yeah, he was great that day.
Yeah. Well, that was also the death knell for Matt Flynn at Greater Western Sydney. He was dropped after that for Kieran Briggs. Collingwood dominated that one, winning by 65. It was their first real blowout loss, and one of the last times before the Giants turned the corner. Admittedly, they were without both Toby Green and Sam Taylor, and Collingwood was motivated by Bo McCreary's mom giving a great pregame speech.
That's what did it, not just being a better team.
Well, yeah, you had Bo McCreary's mom for Collingwood. You had, well, actually, it was a post-game thing for Toby Bedford's mom after one of their finals wins. Was she the one who called him the green team?
I think so. It was when they beat Port, I think.
Yeah, that would do it then. I believe Mel Bedford was our semifinal main character. We've had some good drunk parent and significant other moments in the rooms in the past couple years. I think there was a really good one for Samson Ryan's mom as well. I think that was the one. Collingwood's got a 3-game head-to-head streak going because they also won at the G in 2022.
Giants come in with pretty busy injury list for this time of year, I guess. The most significant ones, Finn Callahan out for a week with a shoulder injury. Harry Perryman, hamstring injury, going to keep him out a week. Darcy, no relation to Darcy Burns-Jones. Jones will not debut yet because he's got a knee injury that's going to keep him out a couple weeks.
Kingsley seemed pretty upset about that. They really have been talking up his ability on the flank these past couple years, kind of an extra piece there. I think Kingsley said he's like a hybrid of Daniels and Bedford, which, I mean, those two both worked very well for them last year. So imagine another one of those in there to free up Toby Green even further.
Isaac Cummings got a quad injury. He's going to be missing 2 to 3 weeks. Braden Pruce is going to miss 6 to 8 weeks, but this is Kieran Briggs' job unless he also gets hurt.
Yeah, we knew about Pruce. We knew about Adam Kennedy from his ACL last year, and no timeline on Phoenix Gothard's debut because I believe he's got mono, or what the Australians would call glandular fever. I think we went over this in our home and away previews as well. With Perryman and coming out, I think that really means a defensive job is in the works for Nick Haynes because he'd been a taller wing option in the preseason. That'll leave the wing open for, I believe, a guy who was my sleeper last year, but never really got a chance after getting clobbered in both of the first 2 games. Jacob Ware, I remember he got absolutely killed by, I think it was Shane McAdam. Yeah, if I'm him, I'm just staying away from DeGoey and Maynard. Maybe Mason too. Good luck. Good luck. If you are looking at debuts for the Giants, it would probably be Arby Thomas, a small utility who was pick 59 in the draft coming out of their academy. And from academy to Catman, he's probably in for good at this point after a strong preseason. I remember last year it was Catman and Riccardi who kind of went in and out for each other. Do you think they can coexist? I think they'll find a way. I think ultimately they're going to figure out how to include just their best forwards. The bigger thing there is for Jesse Hogan to maybe have more ability as a full field mark with his inconsistent goal kicking and have Cadman take more of that kind of center of the 50 job. I think there is a very reasonable solution for both of them to be in there. The Pies' concerns are definitely more defensive. I mean, firstly, Nathan Kruger is always hurt, and so he's got 5 weeks on the sideline still from his hamstring, but neither Jeremy Howe nor Nathan Murphy will be playing for the Pies. Murphy, no timeline still from his concussion recovery, was cleared to continue his career, but we'll see if he actually does see the field again, or if this is going to end up more like a Paul Seedsman case. And then Howe is still a week away from recovering from his calf injury. So, speaking of sleepers, my sleepers specifically, Charlie Dean, I think this is finally time for him. Was second pick of the rookie draft in 2022, inactive from a foot injury last year. It's got to be time for him in defense. He's not like for either Howe or Murphy, but he's one of the next guys up there, and I'm looking forward to him finally getting his chance. I think it does happen. Scott Pendlebury, his status is up in the air with a knee injury, so that could open up spots for Finn McRae, who it seems like, throughout last year we were saying like, oh, he deserves a shot. It's just there's no room. Up front could open up room for Ash Johnson or Reef McGinnis. Well, I think that was already there with Dan McStay missing time. I think it's just a matter of which one of them you choose, and McGinnis seems like a reasonable sub pick as he was last year because he's got that strong midfield ability too. I think more interest just does fall in the midfield. If Pendlebury's out, just where does that kind of put everybody else in terms of the structure? Obviously, more on-ball responsibility for Tom Mitchell, where he was up and down last year, but up when it mattered. John Noble, remember last year, played the whole regular season and then not finals. Should be a spot for him again. He was just kind of an unfortunate casualty last year. Then Patrick Lipinski, I don't think people remember how good he was in 2022. He missed some time injured in 23 and was the sub in the grand final. He should be in the full team, I would think. I think those are both probably regardless of Pendlebury being in or not. I think maybe it's more of a matter of does Finn McRae slot in or who draws the shortest stick in terms of like the actual best 23. I think people are going to realize like just how good Patrick Lipinski is again. I think that's going to be one of the positives for Collingwood this year. For all the spots where they have room for regression, I see that being positive regression. And in terms of John Noble, I think it's actually Jack Ginnivan not being there anymore that opens things up for him. Yes, he has shown some time kind of as a halfback flight, but he's got some decently long kicking ability too, and I can see him getting some of those kind of grimier possessions at a half forward spot too. Whereas Lipinski, I still think of as more of a central ground player. Then again, there's kind of another guy there who's going to do some grimy stuff at half forward, and I'm not even thinking about Bo McCreary. I'm thinking about the new guy. I don't think of Lachie Schultz as grimy. I just think of him as setting dudes up. I don't know. He's got that sort of grimy ability, very good, low to the ground, and excellent in terms of pressure on the defensive end. I would love to see just like what kind of percent of his goals, just like how many goals he's gotten as a result of getting somebody holding the ball, because that's just always a way that I've noticed him. And we've been very keen on Schultz since we started podcasting and even before. And as we've said repeatedly, it's about time for the rest of the league and the footy world to realize just how good of a player he is. Would you tip the Giants, Ethan? No, I'm surprised that they're favored in this game. It's not like Collingwood have any major outs. I mean, I would consider Howe and Murphy pretty like confirmed major outs. I mean, we'll see about Pendlebury, but even if he was out, I'd still, I'll take Collingwood in a close game because that's what they do, and they can do it on the road. We saw it in South Australia, I guess 3 times last year against both Adelaide's and the Saints in the gather round. Although that one was only close because of like a super late St Kilda charge, but they can do it anywhere. And as great as it would be for the Giants to get a win at home to start the season in front of a huge crowd, I think it's still going to feel more like a Collingwood home game and a Collingwood win. Now, the last thing we do at the end of all of our round previews is list our main character picks. Now, this doesn't have to be anything on the field. This could just be like anything we think is going to be prominent. It doesn't even have to be an animate object. I mean, think about it. Last year, the round 2 main character was the Gabba Lights. I've got a good one, and I don't think you're going to have the same one as me. Actually, I just realized it was like inanimate things at the Gabba twice, because the Gabba siren for the prelims. You're going to go first, but I'm going to say if you somehow say the same thing that I'm going to come up with, I'm telepathic. No, I will quit this show. Okay, well, my pick is that I think we're going to see the reemergence of Joe Exotic Richmond fans in full force, because when I think back to 2020 and what I remember, all these big Richmond games were in Queensland, and yes, it was when Tiger King was popular, and we had just all the Joe Exotic fans, the huge mullets or whatever Joe's do is, and the stuffed tigers they brought with them. It just strikes me as a Queensland thing, and I think we're going to see a lot of them. What do you got, Ethan? Okay, good. It's not what I was going for. All right. My main character for opening round, environmental activist. You know how you have like these dumb fucks that like throw paint on the Mona Lisa or whatever, or well, the glass covering it? I was going to say, it's Windex exists. Oh, and what was it? I think Extinction Rebellion recently blocked a bridge with a bus, and like these people are sus. Okay, but also like that's just causing more pollution. More cars are sitting there, and yeah, a huge fucking semi truck, or I guess you'd call it a lorry, to block a bridge. Okay, so here's what's gonna happen. Environmental activists are gonna run on the field at Gold Coast, and they're gonna throw ketchup on Damien Hardwick. That's gonna be really tough because Hardwick is usually up in the box during his interview. I don't know if that's going to be at halftime or post-game or pre-game, but environmental activists are going to throw ketchup on Dilla. That is my prediction for this week for the main character. I could just see like a better environmental activist with whatever the chalky paint is that the Just Stop Oil protesters use all the time. I prefer the Thai Stop Drinking ad to Just Stop Oil. Oh, very much so. If you haven't seen the Thai Just Stop Drinking ad, become a productive member of society and do it. Improve social. Yes, right. Improve social. I think our title is still, oh yeah, it's definitely, our podcast has cancer. Yeah. Or my podcast has cancer. Anyway, that's just about it for this episode. So, end of the show. Da, da, da. Social media. I would ask ChatGPT how to end an episode, but it would probably say something really lame. You're like, hey, be sure to listen to our next episode unless you don't want to, and that's okay too. Don't feel pressured. No, we want to pressure you. Yeah, like Lockie Schultz or Bo McCreary. Reminder for the socials. Benjamin HK01 for me, cat named Brian for this wacko who is like punching Ethan's closet door again. Yeah, that's, if you just heard something funny, that's what that was. I'm at Castle Media, we're at Americans Footy, and yeah, I think we're just going to end this episode by just looking at Brian and try to figure out that the door is not his enemy? Or is it? Okay, time for plan B. This means war.